What's good, everyone? This is Marcus the Fingaz, Dafingaz, with the Sampleist, and back with another review for you. In this video, we have the Hein OCTA suite of instruments from their Mega Structure series. Before we get started, one disclaimer: this instrument was provided from the developer, but they had no input whatsoever, and our judgment will not be deterred or affected by the fact that they provided this instrument. The Hein OCTA instrument is the first instrument of the new Mega Structure series. It features 100 solo instruments, which includes 64 acoustic instruments, 32 carefully, meticulously selected synths, 4 percussion sets with 1,500 samples. The instruments themselves have instrument variations. There are 8 core multi-channel instruments. You have an 8-channel sequencer. It is also NKS compatible, which means you can use this in the free version of Kontakt, the Kontakt player version, or the full version of Kontakt. In addition, you also have a number of easy instruments in the Easy series, which are 16 acoustic instruments with sub presets and a cleaner interface with the most important features. So let's dive right in. Here we are in Logic, and we have this loaded up in Kontakt. This is the default setting that loads up in Kontakt. Already sounding great with those mallet instruments. And you have 6 pages here. You have a mixer page, which gives you a general overview of the instruments. You have the main page here, which will give you the global parameters and settings that you can adjust for each of the 8 channels. You have the effects page here, which gives you up to 20 effects that you can have simultaneously. You have your presets here, where you can choose different presets. You have that menu there. You have the sequencer, which lets you design the sequence presets. And then you have your settings, which allows you to program your MIDI controllers and also program some global settings for the overall plugin. We have a lot to cover here. This video might go a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to touch the basic points here, but you really have to get in there and dive in to use it on yourself. Let's start with the mixer page here. On the mixer page, you have 8 channels that you can load up different presets here. So the mixer channel does tie in directly with the presets page, where if I click here, I can load a preset onto that channel for there. So these tie in directly. If I click the name here below the channel, I can also change what preset is loaded to that channel. So on the channel here, on the mixer page, you have the mixer, of course, to adjust your volume with the fader here. You have your panning here. You have your solo button here. There is no mute button. To mute the channel, you have to click this little orange button. Not only does that mute the channel, that also removes it from your memory, so you save some memory there on your computer. So let's say I'm playing this one sound here. I click the orange button and no sound. As you also see, it removes it from down here. If I have another instrument loaded, the keys will stay blue because another instrument is loaded there. But that is the mute button, the solo, your volume pan, typical things that you see on a mixer. So that's how you do that. Let's jump over to the main page. The main page here is for all the channels, global settings there. You have on the left scale, where you can choose the key of every note that you play will be tied to that key. So let's say I want to do the scale here, this minor scale, and with key, we're going to make it an E minor. So everything I play, everything is tied to that scale, and you have some interesting scales here that you can choose between. And again, you can choose a key there. So every note you play on your keyboard or your MIDI controller will be locked to that scale and that key for all the instruments. So these are global settings. You also have the chord option. So with the chord option, you can play different notes based on, it will play a chord based on the first note you play. So I just played a C there, so that's playing a 1, 3, 5. I can also play a third. Well, actually, let me turn the scale off here. There we go. A fifth. So you have different options there. Transpose, you can transpose up or down up to 36 semitones, which is, in my mind, is that 6 octaves? Is that 3 octaves? 3 octaves, right? So you have 3 octaves down, 3 octaves up, and you can also, let me try this thing out. So you can get that bell tone there with the transpose option. You also have tune. Let me get this back to 0. Next, we have the tune option here, so you can tune it up or down there. You also have small increments. If you hold down the shift key while adjusting the tune, you can adjust even smaller increments, and then you can hold down the command key and click there to reset it back to 0. Hold down command to reset back to 0. Next, we have type. These are the different types of audible things that you hear from the channel. So I can say, I want to layer this. I can blend in and blend out, which would allow me to use Control CC11 to adjust the blending, sort of the fading. You can use the pad options here. All of these pad options are directly related to the pad over here. So if I choose pad A, it will only play what is directly affected over pad A. So if this is down here at F, you're not going to hear anything there. But the closer I get to D, you will see that it will play that. So that's a great way to add different dynamic layers to your different channels there. And then of course you have pad center, which is the closer you get to the center, the more of that channel you will hear. So there's really so much power that you can do here. Next, we have output, which allows you to choose the different outputs. This is based on the interface that you have connected to your system. So your outputs may look different from mine, depending on the interface that you're using with your system. Next, we have key range, which allows you to limit the range of the instrument that you're playing. So you can do learn, or I can click key range here and I can adjust the different ranges. The black notes here are the start and end points of the range. So this note will end. If I play any keys up here, I won't hear the notes. I'm ending at the E, what is that, E1? E2 there. Anything below that will play that range. Anything above that will not play that. You also have a way of sort of fading in and out. So the orange layer there will allows you to fade in and out of the note. So you can have different really dynamics going on there. So if I play this, and then you can have that fade in range. So many options there with this plugin. This is just the second page. You have your envelope, which is typical ADSR. I won't go over all those settings there, but if you're familiar with ADSR, that is what your envelope. You have your velocity layers, which gives you dynamic behavior of each channel there. Then you also have key switches, which allows you to activate specific channels on the fly. You can have up to 8 key switches that can be assigned there. So you can have those key switch settings down here at the bottom by choosing key switch and turning them on. They may be off by default, so just hit on and you can adjust the key switches there. That is the main page. So many options and settings there on the main page. We're going to jump over to the effects page next. Here on the effects page, you have 6 slots that are available for individual channel effects up here, FX 1 through 6. And of those 6 slots, you can click the drop-down menu and you can choose between all these different effects. You have filter options, EQ, dynamics, amps, stomps, delays, reverbs, modulation, utility options down there. Let me bring my plugin up. I believe utility is the last one, stereo. So you have all those options there that you can choose from on the effects page. You also have an individual filter per channel. And with that, when you choose filter, you can go down here to adjust the different filter effects. You have your cutoff, your resonance things, settings down there that you can adjust. MIDI controller for your filter. So many settings. In addition to the effects on the channel, you also have some send effects at the bottom here. The send effects have an intensity fader for each channel, so you can adjust these. You can change what effects is there. You have your delay, you have your convolution, plate, reverb, you have a chorus, flanger, phaser, so you can adjust those. The convolution, reverb in particular, you have so many options. I believe, let's click here, you have over 100 options that you can choose from. 100 impulse responses from very short here, this acoustic space hall, 0.1 second, all the way up to over 16 seconds of endless space. So you have so many options, over 100 options of impulse responses there. The vibrato control here at the bottom can be controlled by MIDI CC, and you have so many options there for vibrato. Your intensity here is directly affecting the volume, pitch, and the EQ, and then you have some other settings there. So many options. You also can change the wave here from sinus, triangle, saw, square. So many options on the effects page. I'm going really fast because I'm trying to give you so much. You might have to go back and play this back in slow motion to absorb all these gems, but there is a lot to cover. So I'm going to try to speed through this. Next, we have our presets page. This is where I'll probably spend most of my time because I just like finding presets and maybe tweaking from there. The presets page gives you your instrument presets. You have channel presets for each channel separately. Your default setting, let's say if we choose Bell Magic here, and I'm going to double click there. So I have that selected. Here in the description, that explains some things that might be helpful. So for example, you can use key switch C0 through E0 for variations. You can use your CC11 to add pads. You can activate your sequencer for movement. So if I use CC11, which is a volume pedal that I have, I can add those pads down there. So if I play the sound, you can start to build a cue just from the preset sound there. If I go to load up here, what I want to do is, so now let's go to another sound. We're going to go down to, let's say, pad strings. We're going to click load. And you can load by either selecting the plugin, clicking load, or selecting the preset, click load, or you can double click and it will load. So you have those options there to load up. So let's play this pad strings thing. And it says use key switches C0, G0 for pad variations. And you see your key switches down here. If you have a native instrument compatible keyboard, your keyboard will have the lights indicating where those key switches are. So you can add those layers in incredibly. You can also use the arrows here to choose the next sound or the previous sound. And then if I want, I can close that and I can go back to our mixer page here or any other page that you're on. Let me go back to presets here. Then you have categories. So each sound is tagged. So let's say I want to look for real instruments. I can click real instruments there, and there's my list of real instruments, and I can scroll down if needed to see all those instruments. If I want to see the bells that are real instruments, or if I want to see the metal, you can layer up your tags here to find a specific sound if you want to narrow it down by those categories. In general, you have over 100 sounds, 100 presets there loaded up, and then you can save your own presets by clicking, and then you can hit save, and you can give it a name, a description, and it will save there to your presets. So many options here. So those are your instrument presets. Now we have channel presets, which are slightly different. If you see when I click a channel preset here, I have this other option here to the right of our preset window. So with these options here, I can choose default setting, which will be the default plugin that is loaded, the default preset that is loaded. But then these presets may also have variations, which include effects and all built-in programming for the preset. So there might be some other effects. Let's load up this concert vibraphone. As you can see, it has some effects there. Let's load up this slow and long. So that's the same source, using the same source, but just having different effects based on there. So let me find another preset here, just give you an idea. We'll do this pad. The default pad sounds like this. And then you have some different options here. So what you can do, let's say you find a preset that you like, you can choose source only, and that will keep all the effects for that preset, all the different routing and things. And I can go to change only the source, but it will keep all the effects. So remember, this is what we're dealing with. And let's go to our bell here. Let's load up this bell. So now that bell is going through all those presets from the last sound. Let's see if I go to my filtered echo bell, or let's go to ghost bell. So we have the ghost bell loaded up. Now let's go to source only. Make sure source only is selected, and we'll go to synth bass. So it's keeping that bass sound with those effects from the colored bell before. This is what the bass sounds like by itself. So we put that effect for that synth bass through the colored bell. So you have so many options of routing. And then again, all these instrument presets have different options here below. So you have so many options with presets. It's crazy the amount of things you have here. So you can choose that source only to save those, keep those pre-programmed presets with different sounds. And then again, you can use your categories over here. So that is your presets. We're going to come back to sequence because I think we're going to spend a lot of our time on the sequence page explaining what that is. Before we do that, let's jump over to our settings page here. And with settings, you can adjust the different MIDI CC assignments for these volume, the pan, the cutoff, resonance. You can adjust those controllers and map up your MIDI controllers for that. You can adjust the different settings for the pad automation, which ties into what's happening up here. To activate the pad, it says change the channel types on the main page. So in order for pad to be activated, you have to make sure that you have one of these channels set to pad with the type. So let's say that's there. Then we can go back to settings, and now you can adjust different things here. So make sure that at least one of the channels has a pad option selected under layer on the main page. So again, you got to remember how these things tie in together. So make sure you have either pad center or anywhere from pad center to pad 8 selected in order to adjust those pad controls for the MIDI, for the settings page here. So just make sure you have that in your memory, and you can adjust whether it's 6th note, whether it's a 16th note, a 8th note triplet. You can adjust those options there. You can adjust how many notes are there. You can have a different page too. How many steps are there for the pad. So many options there. You can adjust the waveform. Yeah, so many options. At the bottom, you have your MIDI options. So keep this in mind with MIDI. Instrument option means that all channels respond to the same MIDI channel assigned to the instrument. The channel option means that each channel has its own MIDI channel. 1 through 8 and 9 through 16 will affect all channels. So again, instrument, all channels will respond to the same MIDI channel. The channel option, all the channels will have their own MIDI channel. 1 through 8 and 9 through 16 will affect all the channels. When you have the channel selected, make sure that when you click your information knob up here or your eye on your Kontakt instrument, make sure you have Omni selected in order to use the channel option as intended there. So just keep all that in mind. There's a lot of settings and things and routings when you're setting these things up to keep in mind. Next, you have some miscellaneous options. You can choose your round robin and what your repeat key will be. You have your blend mode, which will be what controller you have to blend the different sounds. You have your intensity MIDI controller knob for vibrato, your speed knob, your X fade for your sequencer, and variation keys. You also have your pad options. So all of this is mainly your MIDI control settings for MIDI if you have different MIDI controllers or external MIDI things that you use to program your instruments. Now, last but not least, we're going to get into sequence. This is a lot here. There's a lot going on. There's a lot on all the other pages. There's really a lot on this one. I'm going to try to break break it down for you really fast before we get into the demo. With the sequencer page, you have 8 independent sequence channels. You can click the green light. Let me load up actually a preset here that has a couple of things going on. Let's go to... There we go. We have some stuff going on. So we have this hand pan keys preset loaded up. So with sequencer page, you want to make sure that the green light is on in order to engage the sequencer. But you have 8 independent sequence channels. This activates the sequencer for those channels, and then for each individual channel, you can have the sequencer down here activated or deactivated per channel. So this is your overall, making sure the sequencer is activated in general. So as you can see, nothing's going on there. If I hit this, it is playing everything as expected and as intended. So we're going to disable these actually on all these channels. We're going to hear what's going on channel 1 only right now. And that might be because these channels, we're going to disable all these channels also. So we have our sequencer on channel 1 right here. We've disabled the other instruments. We're going to just deal with the settings. We're just going to look at the settings here on the guitarette channel here. So with the sequencer, the top left is the global controls for the sequence. So you have your chord time, which is in milliseconds. You have your start and end time, which you can adjust for instant or beat or half bar or bar for both. You have your swing, which goes up to, I believe, about 50% of the groove. So let's play that. So you can add a little bit of shuffle, a little groove going on there. Then you have different dynamic options here. You have fixed, which plays exactly as programmed. So let's play that. I'm playing, as you can see down here, a C minor chord. With velocity, it will play the dynamics depending on the keyboard's velocity. So I'm going to play really soft. Then I'm going to play hard. So it will do it based on the velocity of your keys. And then with the X Fade CC, based on the MIDI controller that you have set, which I believe in this case is MIDI CC1, or yep. So I can play that chord again and use a MIDI controller. So a lot of you may opt for the MIDI controller option there, but you have those options for dynamic. Now, going down to the bottom here, you have your velocity. You have different options here that you can set. This is basically the sequence steps. So if I hit the plus, it will allow me to add stuff. If I hit the X, it will delete those steps. So plus will have every step instantiated or initiated. X will delete every step. Or I can choose individually. Let's say I want every other step going on. So I can click those, every other step, and have like an interesting thing going on here. And this is actually 32 steps going on, so I can see that I have 32 steps on channel 1. If I bring that down to 16, that'll keep it all on one page. And I can go in here and I can get rid of, let's say, keep every other step here. So you can have up to 4 pages of steps, up to 64 steps actually. So you can have 4 pages of 16 steps. And you may have noticed when I click something and it says tie, that will allow me to tie 2 steps together. So we're going to tie all these. So it will keep whatever the last note you played and sort of tie that over until the next note. So you can have that. You can have some real fun with programming some things. It almost gives you like a rest, almost like a rest. So that's what tie does there. So you have you have those controls for velocity. So if I choose velocity, I can add the velocity for each of the notes, the steps here in the sequence. I can adjust the volume for the steps in the sequence. I can adjust the pan left or right. Also do it on the per step level. You have the transpose option on the per step level. You can tune on the per step level. You can also adjust the length of the note. Or the length is the length is the duration of the step. Then you have notes here, which gives you some other options. So we're gonna load the preset back up with all the sequences going. This is it. So again, you have the sequences for all 8 channels. We won't go over what's happening on all the 8 channels there. But what we will do is we'll look at the notes option here. So now if I hold down last note here for 1 through 4, and we're just gonna focus on, we're gonna solo this. We're going to do channel 1 through, we're only going to do 16 here. So if you listen only to the first 4 steps there, we're going to just So you have some options with notes here in the sequencer. Last note, we'll play the last note that you played. Any of these 3 up-down options will act like an arpeggiator, so you'll have up, down, or up and down. So you have those options. Chord will play a chord. Or it will also play inversions. So if I'm playing a C chord here, so let's add some steps here. Or we can play inversions. So let's say I'm playing a C chord here, but I want to play some inversions. So inversions tie into the chord there, so you have to have chord selected for inversions to work. Then we have intervals, A and B. So this is the interval from the bottom note. So you can get some dissonance going there, and you can have up to 2 intervals going on. Just throw some weird stuff going on there. And then the bottom side, highest note and your first, third, fourth highest note, that acts as an arpeggiator, almost not an arpeggiator. That is as if you have a guitar going on, like a strumming almost. So notice when I'm choosing the bottom options, it gets rid of the chord because you start doing the strumming thing. Let's do this here. Also, you can click here, double click on these options and press a number there to get rid of those. So there's a lot of options here with the sequencer. You also have your filter options, which we showed a little bit in some of the other settings, but you can adjust the filter, make sure that's engaged, and you have some filter options that you can adjust. You have some pad options, which again ties into the XY that you also have on the settings page. Then you have some send effects there going on, which ties into the send that you had on your effects page here. So many options and so many ways to do things on different pages, and you have access there. Let's jump back really quick to our effects page. One thing I did forget is that you have different effects views. So just make sure if you want to choose A, B, or C, you have those different options for how you want to see things on this page. So if you have A, you can have your mixer with your effects there and then your insert effects below, or you can have your mixer with your send effects here, then inserts below, or your C option there with your insert effects. So many options there with A, B, and C that you can choose between. Now, last but not least, we've gone through, I know it's been a lot we've gone over. Last but not least that we're going to go over in this review before we jump over to the demo is a drum. So let me load up a preset. So let's say you load up a drum kit, a drum group here. You can go to presets, you can look up your drums percussion, and you want to load up like a drum kit, not necessarily a sequence. But if you load up a drum kit, you can go to your sequence here and you can turn the sequence on. And you can choose what drum articulation is assigned to a different step in your sequence here for your drums. So this in particular is a ride, cymbal ride. You can choose one, and not only can you choose it, you can adjust the sort of like the mix of that sound in the group. So how loud it is, the volume of it. So you have some functionality there. You can layer up to 3 drum layers on a single channel. Your edit keys allow you to select those different drum samples from your MIDI controller. So if we choose edit keys here, I can choose a drum sample from my keyboard controller here just by playing a note. By choosing the edit keys option there. And if I select this one, let's say I want to change that, edit keys, or I can manually click and select. If I choose no sound, that step will no longer have a sound. It'll have like a little break there, or I click it again. And then if I hit close, it'll just close the window there. So that is drum groups where you can choose different drum sounds for the different steps in your sequence. So much is going on here in OCTA. Let's jump over to the demo I've created using only OCTA. right, so let's go over this track. I started with the easy keys because I didn't talk about the easy keys yet. Let me go to OCTA. If you load up the OCTA instrument here in Kontakt, you have these easy instruments, which is a number of easy instruments that you can load up. It has a pared down interface that takes bits and pieces from the main interface. So I just used the piano from the keys preset here. If you click on piano, you have different presets, electric piano, toy piano, different options there. You have some effects there, just elements from the main plugin that you can use here in the easy series. So I use the easy piano just to playing this chord progression going from C minor to F minor. And that piano sounds really nice, really well sampled, or however they got the sound, it sounds really, really authentic. So I really like that piano sound. Next, I have a pad coming in not long after the piano. This is another preset, not from the easy series. This is just from the regular series, and this is called Enter the Dark. Again, this is a preset, and I used all of the elements from here. So you have the slit drum, the vibraphone, the monochord mallet, the wine glass, synth bass, guitar magic, massive cold breeze. What I didn't mention earlier is that I really like how the UI is set up with the graphic for the instrument. So some of them, like let's say the cold breeze there, just has like a synth pad, but some of them, like the wine glass, look at this, it looks insane, the graphic. But with the sound itself, it sounds incredible. So let's play a little bit of the pad going on right here. Nice ambient effects and delays and things going on. Next, we have the OCTA bass and bell. This is a bass and bell layered. Comes in a little bit at the beginning, a little bit later in the beginning there. And this is a bass layered with bells. So you have the bass there, you have some bells. I disabled, I believe, the strings and pad, or maybe they was already disabled, but I like the sound of this. So it has like the harp layered with some mallet instruments, the wine glass, the bass, and some space bells. So let's play that. So it's actually really an affected bass that has a lot of reverb and delay and things going on. It's layered with the bell. Next, I have a space ARP that comes in for a little bit there in the middle. So this is what that's doing. This is from the Easy series. So that space harp, it's from the Easy series again. You have the pared down plugin here, but you have some presets there that you can choose from, and then the effects over here. So I just use it out the box as it is with the space harp. Next, we have the Christmas strings. I did disable some of the instruments here. I believe the first 5 there. I just wanted the strings and the pads at the end. So I kept the strings heaven, the strings ensemble, and the breathing warm. And the strings ensemble, look at this graphic there. Look at all those strings. Looks incredible. So this is what's happening with the strings here. Really ambient, really almost atonal, but yeah, sounds incredible. Then we have the colored bell. I really like this graphic. Look at the colored bell there. It looks insane. Again, from the Easy series. This is also, these sounds I believe are also available in the big plugin, but this is just a pared down version. The colored bell, because I remember using the colored bell in our demo earlier. So the colored bell, this is what's happening with the colored bell here at the end-ish, middle end. Yeah, so that is the breakdown of the sounds I use in the track. Really only 6 tracks there going on, so nothing too crazy. Just playing that C minor to F minor and just coming up with different elements that come in and out throughout the track. And I'll probably send it to a singer or something, so you never know where you're going to hear it. But overall, I really like the Chris Hein OCTA plugin. Again, this is the first in the Mega Structure series, so looking forward to what they have next. What is missing? It seems like the plugin is really heavily focused towards those mallet instruments. You do have some pads, so mallets and pads, I would say it's really focused towards that right now at the moment. And you have some great sequences there also. You don't have a lot of, like, if you're looking for lead synth instruments, you don't have a lot of that yet in here. Again, this is version 1, but you also have 60 over 160 presets. You have a couple of drum and percussion elements, and then you can also save your own presets. So you can go in here, you can go, let's say, to the initialize preset at the very beginning, clean start, and then you can just start building your own and create your own presets. You can load up your own channel presets here of all the options you have here, and then start building your own custom presets within the plugin. So you can really make this your own. You have so many automation and MIDI CC options, just so much layers that we talked about earlier. There's a lot. The possibilities are nearly endless, but they might actually be endless. So definitely get in there, check out the Chris Hein Octa plugin. For pricing, I believe it is around $270-ish to $300 if you have an existing Chris Hein product. Up until January 31st, you can have a loyalty pricing offer, which brings that down to, I believe, around $220-ish, and whatever that translates to in your currency exchange. Again, shout out to the Chris Hein team for sending this over. Again, that our review and this demo and everything was not affected by them. They haven't seen this, so hopefully they enjoy this. This product sounds incredible. I'm going to be adding it to my trailer music templates and things like that. There's so many offerings within this one plugin alone. You can create cues for sync licensing using just this plugin, tension cues, things like that. And again, the mallets are they really shine through here. That piano I had in my demo sounds great. You can really go with the easy series and start coming up with ideas. So there's so many things. You can spend days and hours just using this plugin and creating a lot of ideas. So have fun, dive in there. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Sampleist channel. This is Marcus Fingaz. Be safe and be well, everyone. All right, peace.